If you were watching a few weeks back, you saw us making a video where I had harvested a buck that was just covered in fat, and we were showing how to cut that fat off and render it down and turn it into something useful. What better time to show you how you can take things that you harvest from the wild and put it to good use for emergency situations than when the world's got all kinds of crazy stuff happening. So we're going to show you today how we can take this, and hopefully we've got enough time. We're going to try and show you 3 different types of fire starters you can make using deer fat, or deer tallow as some people call it. And then also we're going to show you how to make just some cool little camp candles. So we're going to get started with that here. Now the first step we need to do is we're going to take this fat and we're going to put it on a little cook stove in a pot, and we're going to heat it back up and turn it back into liquid. You can see how it'll spin around. It's one solid block, so I could actually cut that pretty easily if I wanted to by just popping it out and cutting it. What I'm going to go ahead and do, just to speed things up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and use a chisel. Hopefully I don't pop through. Hopefully I don't pop through and break the old stock pot here in the bottom. I'll just be careful. We're going to break up some pieces here so we can get it out easier. What started off as just big old layers of fat hanging on that deer has now turned into blocks of energy that we can craft into other things. Going to give it a little bit of time to re-liquefy, melt down, then we'll be back to take it from there. Welcome to our show, where we measure success in memories made and knowledge gained, not inches scored.
And our goal is to learn and share tips that help us all become better outdoorsmen and women.
Along the way, we'll have some laughs and record new experiences as we promote our passion for the great outdoors.
This is Total Outdoor Pursuit.
Okay, now that that's starting to re-liquefy, we're going to go ahead and show you some of the different things that we're going to be doing here. We're going to do 3 different types of fire starters. The first type is what we call fat wood. And I'm just going to take a piece of hardwood. This here I believe looks like it's probably oak. And we're just going to make little pieces, almost like kindling. Since it's getting close, I'm going to go ahead and start adding our fat wood in there. We're going to put some wood in there. The more it melts, the more I'll add, but we're going to go ahead and dunk underneath. And as it continues to heat up, we're going to start to see bubbles around the wood, and that's going to be the air escaping as the wood heats up, and the tallow is going to replace those voids. As you can see, we're starting to get some bubbles showing up along the edges. That's that air starting to escape, and that tallow is going to fill in those spots there. Now once this is soaked, it's been bubbling for a while and it stops bubbling, we'll go ahead and pull it out and start grabbing this fat wood, let it drain. You want to save as much of that as you can for the other projects we're going to do, and then we're going to set it on something that doesn't matter if it gets a little bit greasy. One thing you'll have to pay attention to when you're doing any of this stuff with fat and tallow and stuff, you want to make sure that you don't put this down the drain, because it will re-solidify, cause drain issues. Try and do it outside anytime you can. If you have to do it inside, just be careful. It is semi-flammable. And try and use stuff that doesn't really matter if it gets a little greasy, because it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to clean up. I mean, it's doable. Use some hot water in a bucket outside or something first. That helps a ton. And then you're not putting as much down the drain. So there we go. There's our fat wood. Super simple, super quick and easy. And they light quick and they stay burning for a long time. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to take an old recycled paper egg carton, kind that's almost like the cardboard type material, not the foam weird stuff. You want something that's going to burn without putting a bunch of nastiness into the air if you're trying to cook over it or something. And we're going to take half of these and fill them up with just fine sawdust. You know, I just got this from underneath the work table where my saws are and stuff. And we're going to use that to go ahead and fill in about half of these containers. Just kind of get it as close to the top of the egg shape as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's just going to burn anyways. So we're going to do some fire starters using fine sawdust. The other thing, dryer lint. We're going to take dryer lint and pack each one of these eggs with dryer lint as good as we can. Once again, doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to make sure you get some of that dryer lint down in there and try and get it down underneath the level of those little egg things so you can separate it easier. We're just going to cut it since it's paper and leave it in the eggshell once we get done here. We're going to lose a little bit of our tallow. Just try and be as careful as you can and pour it in kind of slow, because you want to go ahead and have time to sink down to the bottom, and sometimes it'll pool up on the sawdust and run off. You just got to try and do it as careful as you can so you don't lose as much of this as possible, but just part of the deal. You will lose some. Okay, we still got some room. Throw some more in here. Again, just try and be careful that you don't lose too much, but it will happen. Part of the deal. Alright, so there we go. What we'll do is we'll let this solidify too, and then we're going to cut it down the center, cut through each one. Each one of these will be individual fire starters, so we're going to have roughly a dozen good ones. Might have a few that are a little weaker than others, but cut them up. Same thing, put them in Ziploc bags so they're not making a mess everywhere. You can store it and take it out to the woods. Once again, a quick, easy way to make a nice fire starter using things you already have laying around and taking advantage of the deer that you harvested. What we're going to do next is make some campfire candles. And what I did is I took some 100% cotton string, and you want to use 100% cotton because if you use something that has, you know, nylons and things like that, it's going to smoke like crazy and not be pleasant to be around. So 100% cotton. I took 3 pieces and I braided it. And I'm not going to teach you how to braid. You can probably find a video on YouTube that shows you how to do that, but you're going to make your little wicks by braiding the 100% cotton. And then what we'll do, I got these old campfire mugs that we used to use, and we've got new ones since then. These ones are getting a little beat up. I'm using metal because, number one, it's going to be tough. It's not going to break, get cracks in it, and secondly, it'll hold up to heat. And I like the fact that it has the handle on there. If I need to move this around, you know, it's just pick it up like this rather than trying to grasp it like that. So we're going to take just an old metal tin here. You could use a can, you know, something from a canned food item. Some people like to use ones that have lids that you can put back over it so you can, you know, keep it from having things fall in it. Whatever you want to use. It's really simple. It just has to be able to hold the tallow. So what we're going to do next, try and get it on a level piece of ground here. We're just going to balance a pencil on there. For some reason it wants to show up with the, it wants to sit with this Carly for Prez, whoever that is. So anyways, we're going to take our braided 100% cotton wick. We'll try and get it as close to the center as possible, and then make sure that the other end, that's going to be the part you light, is not down in there. I'm going to fill it about 3/4 of the way up. I'll go ahead and let some of this get on the wick just to weight it down a little bit. Just make sure that the wick goes all the way down to the bottom and then is centered as best as possible, and the other end of it is not down in there when it seals. Alright, so we got that much left over. I could do some more projects with that while it's still rendered, make another candle, do some more fat wood, something like that, some more fire starters. But I'm just going to pour this right back in the stock pot there. It'll re-solidify and I'll be able to use it later. So you can see how little I actually used. This is just from one deer. Talk about a great resource. And I still have this much left. I'm going to pour this right in there. Hey, guess what? Filled that little area back up. It's going to congeal back to this stuff here, and we'll use this again. It's just amazing. You definitely don't want to get rid of your deer fat. There's all kinds of great things you can do with it, and it doesn't really take that much effort. Cut it off, heat it up, render it down, strain it, store it. Okay, so a little bit of time's passed and everything is set up nicely. Go ahead and pull those pencils out. We'll trim this down just a little bit here. So there's one candle, two candles. Got ourselves some nice camp candles here. And what you want to do is go ahead and light them, let them burn. They might burn a little bit smoky at first, but that's only temporary. After it's burnt for a little while, good to go. Melt that wax a little bit. Alright, so there's our two camp candles. Got all kinds of fat wood. Put those into Ziploc bags, save them for when you go out camping. And then of course over here we've got our fire starters. This is the lint balls and this is sawdust. So what we're going to do is just take it, cut it right down the center. Speed this up for the video. I'll show you. Right there's your dryer lint fire starters. Throw those in Ziploc bags. And over here, got the sawdust version. And there you go. So that's all there is to it. Now another thing with these candles, if you want to, you can take the time to take some, some of the special oils that you can find all over the stores now, and put certain scents in the candles if you want. When it's still liquefied, just mix it in really good. Or another thing is citronella. If you get citronella oil, you can mix that in and helps keep the mosquitoes away while you're using it too. So, but the most important thing is make sure to use everything you can on the deer that you're harvesting. If you get lucky enough to get a buck or a doe that's got a lot of fat on it, go ahead and take the time, cut that fat off, render it down, and then strain it out, store it, because you can use it for all sorts of things. There's other things that we can go into that we haven't even touched on. You can make soap, suet for birds, with seeds mixed in, all kinds of different things you can make use of it. So anytime you get a deer that gives you that option, make sure and take advantage of it. All right, thanks for watching. I think I'm ready to go camping.